Alright folks, let's go through and finish up lesson 11-5. The first thing I want to show you is something called the slope-intercept form. Now you know that this M right here, well, that stands for slope or rate of change. So this is not just like random letters that are in here. And we know that we're used to seeing these equations start with an I, and that the slope number or the rate of change number is always multiplying the x here. Okay, so that's normal. But what about this letter right here, the B? Well, it's just another abbreviation, sorry, can't talk there. Where this M stood for the slope or rate of change, the B, you've been calling it the start, but the actual term would be the y-intercept, or sometimes referred to as the initial value, which is very much like, hey, what are you starting with? Okay, so how would we go graph these random slope-intercept form equations? Well, first off, always make sure that the y is by itself. Make sure you've got the x in there and there's no exponents on it, right? Just looks like a nice plain setup. And if there's something plus or minusing behind the x, that's fine. That's just our y-intercept. That's our initial value, right? So, step one, find the start, also known as the y-intercept, and the step number, which we no longer call it the step number, we call the slope or the rate of change, either one. So let's go find our y-intercept. Remember, it's always adding or subtracting right behind the x. Step two, the y-intercept is the starting point. Graph it on the y-axis. So use that sign right in front of it, but think of it as a negative if it's minus. If it was a plus, think of it as positive. So minus 3. Let's see, -1, -2, -3. And then step 3, hey, if the slope or step's not a fraction, make it 1 by putting it over 1. So let's go find our slope number. Anytime that they do not show a multiplying number in front of x, you can put a 1 there because it's the same thing, right? And so that is our slope number, and since it's not a fraction, put it over 1. The top number tells you how many to go up or down by. Remember, if it's a negative number on top, we would go down, but since it's positive, we're going to go up that many spaces. And since it's a 1 on the bottom, that means we're going to go to the right 1 spot also. So the movement looks like this. Now after you've gotten enough points, and this is more than enough too, is the basics. If you can get about 3, that's usually plenty. Go ahead and connect all your dots with an arrow on both ends. And if you ever find yourself in need to use the step motion to go more towards the left, just find the pattern and bring it over to the left just like this. And as you can see, it's quite effective just continuing the pattern on down this way, and you can trust the points every single time. In order to finish this up though, I'd like you to get a little bit of practice making your own x and y axis and then graphing a new equation, but this time it's going to have a fraction for our slope number. 1/2 is our slope, and the plus sign in front of the 3 makes this a positive 3 for our y-intercept. Same thing as start, right? So let's set up the axis for x and y, and we'll start graphing. We'll just assume everything just increases by 1 on the x-axis and on the y-axis, and that this is, as always, 0. So our start number is positive 3. You can see that this would be 1, 2, 3 spaces above our 0. And now let's go use our slope up 1 and over 2. Because the top number of our slope would tell us whether we're going up or down, and since this is positive on top, that means we go up, and since it's positive on the bottom, we go to the right. Up 1, to the right 2. Now we just repeat. And really this should be enough to graph our line, but what if we wanted to come over here to the left? We just continue the pattern that we started, right? Draw a line, put an arrow on it on both sides, and normally I would not be showing this for any type of work or test that I do, but if this is what you need to do in order to make it happen correctly, maybe try to do this kind of faintly and just try not to make a mess as you're doing the graphing there. Keep it nice and orderly, and you should be just fine.